Today we'll take a look at photosynthesis. And sometimes photosynthesis gets a bad rap for being boring, but it is one of the most amazing transformative processes in the universe. Through photosynthesis, plants can do something amazing. They can go from a tiny little seed like this without eating anything and grow into something enormous and massive like this adult redwood tree. So we're going to take a close look at photosynthesis and figure out how plants can do this without eating anything. So we already discussed these terms, producers, autotrophs. They are organisms that make their own food, and they make their own usable energy in the form of sugar. And they do this through photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. So photosynthetic organisms take their energy from the sun to make sugar. They include plants. They include photosynthetic algae, phytoplankton. There's some bacteria that perform photosynthesis. This Venus's flytrap actually is an autotroph, even though it traps flies like this one over here. It doesn't use the fly for energy, just for nutrients, because it lives in a nutrient-poor area and it needs things like nitrogen, but it's not actually getting energy from the fly. It's getting energy from the sun. So those are all photoautotrophs. They're producers that perform photosynthesis. In last class, we took a look at these guys, chemosynthetic organisms who make their own food, who make their own sugar, not from sunlight because they live in places where there is no sunlight. They get their energy from chemicals. So the photosynthesis equation, and we took a look at this last time, this is the simple version of the photosynthesis equation. We begin with carbon dioxide, which plants take in from the air, water, which most plants take in from the soil, and light energy is used to power this whole process. And the products that are made are sugars and oxygen. So this is the simplified version of photosynthesis. And here is the photosynthesis equation that is balanced, and it tells you how much of each molecule there is. So photosynthesis starts with 6 molecules of carbon dioxide as one of the reactants. And the second reactant is the water, and there are 6 molecules of water. So then the reaction occurs, powered by solar energy, energy from the sun, and here are our products. So glucose is another word for sugar, and another way to say that is carbohydrate, but they're all referring to the same thing, which is this right here. C6, so 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, that's the H, and 6 oxygen atoms. So C6H12O6, that is glucose, that is what is made through photosynthesis. And the other product is this oxygen. There are 6 molecules of oxygen produced by plants. So let's take a closer look at photosynthesis. How does it actually happen? So we're going to be introduced to this thing known as chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is a plant pigment. What it does is it absorbs light. And it actually gathers the sun's light, energy, and it allows that energy to be harnessed so that it can then power photosynthesis. And what chlorophyll does is it absorbs certain kinds of light really well, and it really doesn't absorb other types of light. So if you take a look at this chart here, we have chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Those are the blue and the green lines. Those are the lines I want you to focus on. And you can see that chlorophyll A and B absorb a lot of these colors of light. So violet and blue on one side, so a lot of blue light in particular. And they also absorb a lot of red light, not much in the green department. So chlorophyll actually absorbs blue and red light, and it reflects green. It doesn't absorb it, it reflects it. So that's why chlorophyll causes plants to look green, and that's why plants have their characteristic green color. So chlorophyll collects all this energy from the sun, but chlorophyll is found inside of the chloroplast, which is the actual organelle, the part of the cell where photosynthesis occurs. So chloroplasts are found inside of plants. So here's a leaf, right? And we can zoom in on a single plant cell, which is this one. And inside that plant cell, you're going to find these structures known as the chloroplasts. And the chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. It's like an organ, what we call them organelles when it's the cell. It's an organelle that does photosynthesis all day. So that's what a chloroplast is. Here you can see an actual photo of chloroplast inside of plant cells. So the 2 main parts of a chloroplast that we're going to look at are the grana And a single one is called a granum. Grana is plural. And grana are made up of thylakoids and the stroma. So these mean nothing to you. So I'll show you a picture of what those look like. So here is a drawing or image of a chloroplast, and you can see this is these stacks are called grana, and this is one granum, and it's made up of these little things that look like Mentos. These are called thylakoids. See, they're labeled thylakoids right here. So that's one structure of photosynthesis, and the other one is the stroma that kind of fills up the inside of the chloroplast. So that is called the stroma. Okay, so I'm going to show you some cytoplasmic streaming. You're going to get to see right here some of these chloroplasts actually moving around inside of a cell. So this outline here, this boundary is basically the cell wall. It's where the plant cell ends. And you can see inside of it all of these chloroplasts kind of moving around. This allows nutrients to move around the plant cell. But all those green things are called chloroplasts, and that's where photosynthesis is happening. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the chloroplast. We're going to go on. So there are actually two main parts of photosynthesis. There's the light-dependent reactions that depend on sunlight. They need sunlight. They can only occur when there's sunlight. And there's actually a whole set of reactions that only occur, that can occur regardless of whether light is present. They can occur in the light, but they can also occur in the complete darkness. So the light-dependent reactions use energy from the sunlight, and they take this energy to produce energy-rich compounds. And you've already learned about one of them in the last lesson, and that was ATP. And another one is called NADPH. That's another high energy molecule. These reactions take place here in the thylakoid, and they require water and produce oxygen. So let's look at that on a larger image. So here we have the chloroplast, and right now we're doing light-dependent reactions. They occur here in the thylakoid, and they require water, so you can see the water going in. They require light, so you can see the light coming in. They are light-dependent reactions after all. And what they produce is this NADPH and this ATP. Really what they're doing is they're charging the low energy molecules like ADP into ATP, which is high energy, and they're charging this NADP plus, which is low energy, into NADPH. These are like fully charged batteries that are going to power the light independent reactions. As a byproduct, you can see here, oxygen is produced, and we know plants produce oxygen, which we can then breathe in. So these are the light-dependent reactions. The second set of reactions are called light-independent reactions because they do not require light. And this part of the photosynthetic cycle occurs here in the stroma. So not in the thylakoids, but in the stroma. And plants basically, to power the light-independent reactions, they need these batteries produced by the light-dependent reactions. The NADPH and the ATP are going to power the light-independent reactions, which can occur in complete darkness. Okay, so the plant in this part of the photosynthesis is going to take carbon dioxide and from the atmosphere, and it's going to produce, the whole point of photosynthesis, it's going to produce these sugars, which are going to then store energy. So here the sugar is made. And in this process, the ATP and the NADPH are going to get depleted. They're going to be drained into ADP and NADP+, which are the low energy forms. And they have to go back to the light-dependent reactions to get charged again so that more of the light-independent reactions can be run. And it's a cycle that continues. Okay? Now, photosynthesis doesn't always occur at the same rate. Factors that affect photosynthesis include temperature, light intensity, how much light is available. So when we first bought our house, we were so excited we're going to have like a huge vegetable garden. We'll have fruiting trees and we'll have beautiful flowers and all these things. And we made raised beds and spent a ton of time gardening. And then nothing grew because there was so much shade in our backyard that the plants didn't have enough light intensity for photosynthesis, and they never grew and they never produced fruit, and only a few things grew there, like shade-loving plants. So much for our garden. And the other things that affect photosynthesis, of course, are availability of water. If you don't water your plant, it will die. And then CO2 concentration, which is particularly important for aquatic plants. So the enzymes that make photosynthesis possible work best between 0 degrees Celsius and 34 degrees Celsius. You see fewer plants when we get above or below these extremes in temperature. So here you can see the rate of photosynthesis being affected by how much CO2 is available, how much what the temperature is, how much light intensity is, up to a point. And then photosynthesis is going to peak out. It doesn't infinitely get faster and faster. So I really hope that was a helpful introduction to photosynthesis. Thank you for watching.